verse 64. For this aliyah, we call on Rachel. Ta'amod habachura bat mitzvah Rachel Leah bat Yerachmiel HaKohen v'hinda machla maftir. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Barcha Banu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu Et Torto. Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah.
You don't need that yet. You just did it.
Vatisa Rivka et Eineha Vatare et Yitzchak Vatipol me'al Hagamal Vatomer el ha'eved Mihaish halazah Haholech basadeh Likratenu Vayomer ha'eved Hu Adoni Vatikach haseif Vatizkas Vayisaper ha'eved Litzchak eight kvarim asher asa vayeviyaha Yitzchak ha'ohela Sarah imo vayikach et Rivka vatilo lisha vayehaveha vayinechem Yitzchak acharei imo. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'Hayei Olam Natan B'Tochenu Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Mazel tov to you. Rachel, you can stay here. And
she's really eager.
eager to start? Eager to end. Bob and Elaine will have an opportunity to come back to the pulpit a little shortly and have a chance to share some thoughts with Rachel and with us. But now the reading of the Torah having been completed, the scroll is lifted and bound. We all stand, please. I assume this is Jerry and Abby. Yes. Okay. After you turn, and then sit right over there. Okay. Yes. Well, let's clear the mic as long as you feel secure with it. Okay. Go down. Use this table to go down. Okay. Just be careful. It's an old one. Vezot HaTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Please be seated. Rachel, can you get a book stand? I'd like to ask Ben Seitzman to please come forward to sit and hold the scroll of the Torah. Each Sabbath, in addition to a reading from the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, a related portion, a Haftarah, is chanted from the Nevi'im, from the books of the prophets. And the Haftarah is very frequently, as it is today, related thematically to the Torah portion. The selection from the Haftarah, which Rachel will be chanting, begins on page 144 in verse 15 of the very first chapter of the book of 1 Kings. Just as the Torah reading was about the concern for continuity into the next generation, that is what this is about. But in contrast, just as in contrast, whereas in the Torah, it is a although it is a difficult process for Abraham's servant, as you'll be hearing more from Rachel in a little while, it in fact was it went comparatively smoothly. In this case, though, in the succession to King David, it's not quite the same. There is a great deal of court intrigue. David had a number of sons through his many wives, and these sons competed with each other for who would succeed David at this point, when David, as Abraham is in this portion, is Zakein Baba Yamim, is aged and is near the end of his life. And we hear about this intrigue within the court, and we hear how Bathsheba, mother of Solomon, with the help of the prophet Nathan, assures the fact that the succession will be as David had promised and as God had promised to Solomon. So please follow now. If you'd like to follow the blessings, you'll find them in the blue text in the Siddur on page 326, and in the red volume, the Haftarah itself, again on page 144, beginning with verse 15, where Bathsheba comes forward. You've got to get the right page for yourself there. Okay, I just need to take something here.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem ha'ne'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo Nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Vatavo Bathsheba el hamelech hachara v'hamelech zakim me'od na'ishag hashunamit misharat et hamelech v'tikod Bathsheba v'tishachu lamelech v'yomer hamelech malach v'tomer lo Adoni ata nishba'ata v'Adonai Elohecha lamatecha ki shlomo b'neich imoch acharai v'hu yeshiv al kisi v'ata hine Adoniyah malach v'ata Adoni hamelech lo yadata v'hine odena medaberet im hamelech v'natan hanavi ba
Continuing verse 23.
Vayagidu lamelech lemor hine natan hanavi vayivo livnei hamelech vayishtachu lamelech alapav arza vayomer natan Adoni hamelech ata marta Adoniyahu yimoch acharai v'hu yeshiv al kisi ki yirad hayom vayisbach shor umvri v'tzon larov vayikra lekol b'nei hamelech usarei hatava uvyatar hakohen v'hinam ochlim v'shotim lefanam vayomeru yichi hamelch Adoniyahu v'liani avdecha v'sadok hakohen l'nayahu ben Yehoyada l'shlomo avdecha lo kara im me'ep Adoni hamelech niyah hadavar hazeh v'lo ha'odata et avdecha mi yeshev al kisei Adoni hamelech acharav vayon hamelech David vayomer Shuli levatshava vatavo livnei hamelech v'ta'amo livnei hamelech vayishva Hamelech vayomar Hai Adoni Asher bada et nafshi mikol Sarah ki kasher nishbati lach Adonai Elohei Yisrael lemor ki shlomo benech imol chacharai vehu yishev al kisi tachatai ki ken e'eseh hayom hazeh vatikot bat sheva apayim eretz tishtachu lamelech vatomer yehi Adoni Hamelech David Leolam.
In the Sidurim, page 326 in the middle.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzor kol halamim tzadik b'chol hadarot ha'el hane'eman ha'omer v'oseh hamdaber u'mkayim shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Ne'eman atachu Adonai Eloheinu, ne'emanim divarecha, v'dachar echad mivarecha, achor lo yeshuv rekam, ki el melech ne'eman, v'rachaman atah, baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
ha'el hane'eman bechol devarav.
Amen.
Rahem al tion ki hi beit hayinu. V'la'u lavet nefesh toshia b'mhera v'yameinu baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
misameach Zion b'vaneha
Amen.
Samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu be'Eliyahu hanavi avdecha uv'malchut beit David mishichecha b'mhera yavo le'yagel libeinu al kiso lo yesef zar V'lo yichalu od acherim et kivodo, ki b'shem kodshecha nishbatelo, shelo yikbei nero leolam va'ed, baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
magen David.
Amen.
Al haTorah ve'al vodah ve'al nevi'im ve'al yom haShabbat hazeh Shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu Likdushav limnucha Likvod uvtifaret Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu modim lach Umbrechim otach Yitbarach Shemich bifi kol hai Tamid leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Hear that strong amen there? Hear that? All that,
Yeah.
that was a blessing coming back at you. They were so pleased with how beautifully you did that. Take up your second part of your speech. Earlier, Rachel gave us an overview of the portion. That's what in classical biblical study is called pshat. Pshat is the plain sense meaning of the text, the contextual meaning. But then we go beyond into what is called drash. Drash means digging more deeply into it, trying to come to an understanding of just what is going on here and how do we understand it in terms of our own experience. This is done through a process of questioning and answering. It's been done for centuries, and it continues. Essentially, we ask each of our B'nai Mitzvah not only to study, but also to teach. Give me 1 second, Dorothy. Right ahead.
Each of the main incidents in this parsha is important for itself. The burial of Sarah and the marriage of Isaac and Rebekah. But these two incidents also share a second meaning. Each one helps to connect Abraham and his descendants to the Promised Land. I found it interesting that Abraham made a big deal about buying the burial site publicly. I think that one reason he did this was to show the townspeople just how much he cared for Sarah. Also, Abraham wants the local people to see him buy the land so that they will feel more connected to him. When he calls himself a resident alien, Abraham shows that even though he's living among them, he understands that he really isn't just the same as them. He insists on the sale being public. because he also wanted the local people to recognize that his connection to the land promised to him by God is clear and unquestioned. If he had accepted it as a gift from Ephron, then later on, Ephron might decide he wants it back. In that case, Abraham would be in huge trouble. Why wasn't Isaac allowed to leave the land of Canaan with Abraham's messenger? Even if it meant he might not be able to marry the proper wife. Possibly, Abraham didn't want Isaac to leave because then Rebekah's family might convince him to remain with him in Haran. If this happened, then the connection to the land promised to Abraham's descendants in the covenant with God would be lost. Also, if Isaac remained in Haran, then he would be influenced by Rebekah's family, who worshipped idols. And then Isaac might lose the connection with the religion of Abraham. But if Rebekah leaves her family, then Isaac can be a religious influence on her. The covenant with God can continue, and they will live in the promised land as did Sarah and Abraham. In this portion, Abraham makes sure that the religion will continue on into the next generation. In so many ways, celebrating Bat Mitzvah is also about passing on tradition and taking on responsibilities. I'm grateful to the people who made all this possible for me. In particular, I'd like to thank my wonderful tutor, Heidi Lovitz, for helping me learn the blessings, Haftorah, Maftir, and especially for teaching me how to chant both Torah and Haftorah trope. I promise to put my new skills to use reading Torah at your junior congregation and maybe even at services here in the sanctuary. Thank you to the choir for their beautiful musical addition to this service, and to my cousin Marilyn for adding her voice and musical spirit to this occasion. I am grateful to Rabbi Mintz for our interesting discussions together. I enjoyed studying and preparing with you, well, except for the 199 revisions. I'd like to thank my great Hebrew school teachers. Where would I be without they have taught me through the years about my religion? I'm so grateful to all my friends and family who came from near and far to celebrate with me. Thank you to everyone who participated in the service today, including Aunt Lynn and Heidi for their lovely Torah readings, and especially my mom, who did so masterfully preparing for her Torah portion. Finally, to my loving parents, for all the effort they have put into organizing so many different parts of this celebration. They've always believed in me, even when I annoyed them so much I thought they were going to rip their hair out of their heads.
You can go down if you like, or you can stay and get some gifts.
Okay.
Is that why you're wearing a large yarmulke? I've always admired it, but now I know why. Do you have an extra one for me, maybe? Rachel, you've been very gracious in acknowledging a number of us, including those who made you, well, you're a little hyperbole on the number 199, but the fact is that the celebration extends beyond those people who you've mentioned to our entire community, and I'd now like to call upon Jen Friedman, representing our Board of Directors, and representing our sisterhood, Susanna Wood, please.
Give me a hug. As you mentioned, your parents and your whole family is here, and I'm sure they are glowing with pride. I see them glowing with pride. The entire congregation is so proud and so happy for you on this wonderful, special day. We are all behind you and with you, and look forward to seeing you here well into the future. This is from the Board of Directors? No? I'm not sure which is which. Someone else doing the sisterhood one? Congratulations.
Rachel, everybody here is very proud of you, and so am I. And I know that there are many, many times that your parents are proud of you because you're warm and friendly and also already very involved with the life here at the temple. And you're also a person that can be counted on, and that matters a lot in life. And so on behalf of the sisterhood, we have some candlesticks for you to light with your family on Shabbat. And I hope it always reminds you of this day. And we also have from the Brotherhood a piece of jewelry. So congratulations.
Rachel, in addition to the Tanakh, the translation of the Bible from our board inscribed with your name and the date, the candlesticks, and the jewelry, we have one more gift for you, and this is the gift of God's blessing. Come closer to me, please. Misha berach avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, v'imatenu Sar Rivka Rachel v'Leah. Hu yavarech et Rachel Leah, bat Yerachmeel haKohen v'hinda machla. Asher alta hayom l'chvod hamakom v'l'chvod haTorah. Yehi Elohim ima b'yamim habaim, kasher haya ima miyom hivalda ad hena. May our God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless Rachel, who has come forward this day in honor of the Torah, Mitzvah, and her commitment to Jewish life. May God's presence fill her life in days to come, as God's sustenance has been with her since the day of her birth. May she continue to grow in health of body and health of spirit, in wisdom and in graciousness, humility and love of others, and in love of Torah. May she find favor and distinction in the eyes of God and her fellow human beings, and let us all say, Amen. Now you can take those gifts and go back down to your place. Okay, the book too. Okay. And Rachel, I'd like to ask you to stand at your place together with your parents, your brother Michael. I'd like to ask your grandparents, Jack and Gloria, to also please stand at their places as we acknowledge God's gift with the blessing Shechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam Shechianu v'kiyamanu v'giyanu lazman hazeh. We praise you, Lord our God, sovereign of the universe. You have kept us in life. You have sustained us. You have brought us to this joyous moment. Mazal tov. Now, if you all would please rise. We call on Michael to come up together with Natalie Seitzman to place the silver crowns on the Torah. Sit for a minute. Okay. And Cameron Seitzman and Alyssa Katz, please, to come forward to open the ark. In our prayer books, page 340. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki neskav shemo levado. Precious teaching, forsake not my Torah. It is a tree of life to those who cling to it. Blessed are they who uphold it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. On 346. Eitz chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tom echem Please be seated. Quite a week. Quite a week, not only to prepare for Bat Mitzvah, but quite a week. As we reflect on the election and the division within our country, as we look towards the Middle East, towards Israel, and see in the coming of the end of the era of Arafat concerns of instability on the one hand and hopes for what new leadership can be on the other, the thought of what it means for people to be divided comes to mind. And although this isn't my main theme today, I want to at least begin by pointing out a little bit of perspective on what it means to have a difference between 48% and 51%. Example I'd like to give is from Jewish life. I like to find examples from Jewish life. A story is told about a rabbi who needed some surgery and went in for the surgery and was convalescing and received flowers and a lovely note from the board of his congregation. And the note said, "Rabbi, we hope that you will continue to do well, and we want you to know that the board has voted 12-10 to wish you a speedy recovery." So we can wonder what a mandate is, but that's for another time. On the other hand, amidst this sense of division in various parts of the polity to which all of us have concern, I want to reflect a bit with you on what goes on in this particular portion, particularly in this story, and this is why I asked you to read it fairly closely, of Abraham and the people of Hebron and their discussion together. As we read it initially, everyone is being so gracious, or at least pretending to be. Everyone is making demands, but couching them in such a flowery way that if you don't really look closely at the subtext, you might think that everyone's actually being very nice here. But in this bargaining back and forth that goes on, anyone who's ever traveled in the Eastern Mediterranean, or particularly in the Middle East, if you've ever been in a shuk in Israel, you know what it's like to bargain, and you know what expectations there are. And that bargaining is kind of the way that I've always tended to look at this. But fairly recently, I learned to look at this story a little bit differently with the help of a commentary by Rabbi Peretz Rodman, who actually grew up in the Boston area, but now lives in Israel. And he points out a very subtle nuance to the story which not only explains the biblical tale, but actually hints to at least both a barrier and perhaps a pathway to peace in the Middle East. First, I need to explain one aspect of modern biblical scholarship. It's a method of literary analysis that was used by Martin Buber and Franz Rosenzweig early in the 20th century, and many scholars of Bible in our time continues to be by such people as Everett Fox and Robert Alter, whose new translation just came out. And this method involves reading the text very, very carefully and paying very close attention, particularly to words that are repeated many times. If a word is used 3 or 5 or 6 times in the same story, there must be a reason for this. The text must be hinting that this word has implications. And in the case of this story, there's one word that is used 5 times again and again, and which has to attract our attention, and I think leads us to perhaps understand a lesson we might not have learned otherwise. Now, on the one hand, this is a story of Easterners, Eastern people in the Eastern Mediterranean, the Levant, bargaining. On the one side, there's Abraham, aged, grieving, reeling from the loss of his wife, trying to make arrangements. On the other hand, we have what we might call the town council of Hebron, those who sat at the gate of the city, which has all the power and can afford to talk generously, but if you really look at it, is not in the mood to make any concessions. And that's how we kind of tend to look at it. But there's much more than just haggling over money going on here. In fact, on both sides, there's a dialogue about principles, in which each side is trying very hard to make the other side understand its innermost values and its deepest beliefs. And the key word in this dialogue is the word hear. Hear, Shema. That word, versions of that word Shema, appears 5 times over and over again in only 12 verses. 5 times in the speeches of both sides. So we need to understand, what are the implications of this? So let's go over it with that in mind. Abraham begins by asking for a burial place, which he refers to as an achuzah, achuzat kever. That means a perpetual possession, something which I will have in perpetuity. But what the Hittite community offers instead, if you cut through the language, is free access to any burial site he wants, but not in perpetuity. They say to him, bury your loved one in any of our graves. But how do they begin this statement or refusal? Shma'enu, Adoni. Hear us, sir. They're willing to give him a grave site. They're not willing to give up ownership of even a tiny portion of their clan's family property rights. And Abraham begins with the very same key word. If you wish that I bury my dead from before my presence, Shma'uni, hear me, and intercede with me with Ephron ben Sohar, the son of Sohar. Then he goes on to say that he doesn't want very much land, just a small parcel that's located on the far edge of his field. And that's not asking too much, a little plot, is it? And then he goes on to make clear that he's willing to pay top dollar for it, kesef maleh, for the full value in silver, to give me a title. So he's looking for not a gift, as you pointed out to us, Rachel. He's looking not for a gift, not a temporary loan, but a legal sale in perpetuity. Then Ephron enters. And what are his very first words? Not so, my Lord. Hear me. Shma'eni. Lo Adoni. Shma'eni. Hear me. And he goes on to say that if Abraham wants to buy, he's going to have to buy not just the plot, but the whole field. Not just the cave, the whole field. But his first words in saying it are, Shma'eni. Hear me. So now we're picking up this key word. And it's a little bit like a fight between people where one person says, now listen to me. The other says, you listen. The next one says, no, you listen. And the haggling, or in Rabbi Robin's words, the standoff, continues. Abraham sticks to his position and they stick to theirs. Abraham says, if you will only hear me out, Shma'uni, I will give the silver payment for the field. So Abraham is yielding to Ephron's demand that he buy, not just the cave, but the whole field. And he's not quibbling at all about the price. So now both sides, in a sense, have their offer on the table. But Ephron is insistent. My Lord, hear me. Adoni, Shma'eni. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What's that between you and me? So on the surface, his position seems unchanged, but he's done something else now. He set a price. And by the way, an exorbitant one. In that context, 400 weight of silver was very substantial. But he set a price, and now the next move is up to Abraham. He can take it or leave it. There's no more bargaining. And what does the text then say? And Abraham hearkened to Ephron. Abraham hearkened to Vayishma Avraham et Ephron. And here's where, in his commentary, Rabbi Rodman offers a key insight. He says that what Abraham listened to when it says, and he heard Ephron, wasn't just Ephron's last offer. It was much more than that. He listened to something else. He listened to Ephron's cry for recognition, which was underneath his words. Abraham recognized Ephron's concession for what it was, not merely a sale, but also a giving in on principle. Normally, when we read this, we think of Ephron and these citizens of Hebron as hard bargainers who get every single shekel they could from this bereaved man who's in no position to bargain. But actually, I would suggest there's another way to read the story if we follow Rodman's commentary. Maybe from the point of view, we should read it from the point of view of Ephron and the point of view of the town council of Hebron. They may have been making a lot of money, but they were compromising on a principle that is not easy to give in on. They were selling off a piece of land forever that meant a lot to them. And they were doing so from their point of view, not because they had to, but out of compassion for this man. And the reason the word Shema here is found 5 times in a row in this text is because each side had to learn to hear what was behind what was being said, to hear the real agenda. Abraham could not accept their offer of a plot on loan or as a gift. He had to own it forever, as you pointed out to us, Rachel, because God had promised this land to him. To take it as a loan would have been to deny or betray that divine promise. And Ephron and the residents of Hebron could not accept selling it to him forever. Or they could only do so with great reluctance, because for them too, the land was theirs and they could not bear to let it go. But eventually, somehow, both sides did it. Both sides learned to hear, to pay attention, and to understand what was most important to the other, and then they were able to make the deal. The real argument underneath the words was in fact over conflicting principles. The town council, the citizens who sat at the gate, and Ephron are not just trying to collect an exorbitant amount of money. They are in fact parting with pain from an important part of their legacy. And Abraham is not just buying a burial plot. He is acquiring a foothold recognized by public law, as the Balfour Declaration would have put it, in the Promised Land. For both, the conversation looks like it's over money, but in fact, underneath the haggling is over dearly held emotional values that are in conflict. So here's a question to raise. Rabbis have been looking at this text for centuries. Jews have been studying this text for centuries. And people have noticed this repeated use of the word Shema, but this particular interpretation, which Rabbi Rodman offers, why was he able to, in a sense, come up with it? And I think the reason might come from his own life context. There's an old Jewish proverb, I don't know the Yiddish, but in English it's every preacher is really preaching to himself. What that means is that when a person preaches on a text, what a preacher sees in a text, what he chooses to preach about often comes out of his own spiritual situation. And I think this is because Rabbi Rodman finds himself and his people in the very same spiritual situation that Abraham was in many centuries ago. He lives in Jerusalem, just a short drive from Hebron, where this bargaining once took place. And he and the people of Israel today have off and on been involved in a similar kind of bargaining with the Arabs. Prime Minister Barak offered the Arabs almost all of the West Bank. It was probably the most generous offer that any Prime Minister of Israel ever has offered and probably ever will offer. And much to everyone's disappointment, Yasser Arafat said no. And they chose the Intifada instead. And ever since, there have been negotiations, so far futile, in which both sides have come to the table with their maps and haggled over exactly which pieces of land should go to a Palestinian state, which pieces of land should go to the state of Israel. They've met at various times, then they've gone long periods without being able to talk at all. And so far, there is no agreement. And irony of ironies, today, they're haggling over a burial site. It occurs that one reason, I think, that these negotiations have failed is, in addition to lots of other reasons, is I think that on both sides there's been a failure to listen behind the arguing and listen to what people are really saying. For the issue for the Jews in Israel is not this particular acre or that one. The issue for the Jews in Israel is, do you understand who we are? Do you understand that this is our land from the very beginning of our existence, going all the way back to Abraham? And that if we have to part with a part of it, we will do so, but only with much pain and much regret? Do you understand that we want this to be a Jewish state? And therefore there's no way to take back hundreds of thousands of those Arabs who left in 1948 and have been kept in refugee camps ever since by their fellow Arabs, because that will undermine the Jewish character of the state. To understand not only what we say about this particular acre or that one, do you hear what we're really trying to say about who we are and why we are here? And the issue for the Arabs can be expressed in a similar way. They may be haggling not just over what a particular acre is theirs or the Israelis. They may really be saying, do you hear us? Do you understand who we are and how we feel? Do you comprehend how angry it makes us to live under occupation? As Tom Friedman of the New York Times has pointed out, how angry it makes us that you have been able to master the technology of the 21st century and that we have not. Do you understand how frightened of globalization and modernization and secularism we are? How threatening it is to the way of life we have had? Do you understand why the cave of Machpelah in Hebron and what we call the Sharam El Sharif, what you Jews call the Temple Mount, is so very precious to us also? Underneath the haggling over territory, there is a cry for diminished self-image. Do you hear that cry, they may be saying, to be taken seriously? Can you hear us? I'm not ignoring all the other terrible things that are going on. I'm not minimizing acts of terror and what they do. But in this case, it's worth looking at the biblical text and saying, you know, maybe there needs to be a different level of hearing. And at the end of the story in the Bible, what happens? Abraham and Ephron both open their ears and their hearts. They hear each other's, what we might say, inner agenda, perhaps. And that's how come they're able to make the deal. And I think the reason why Rabbi Rodman is drawn to their story and has come up with this interpretation, the reason why he sees so much meaning in that one word here that appears 5 times in a row, is because of where he lives and because of what his people are struggling with today. He lives in a part of the world, in a society in which each side yells louder and makes the case more vociferously, and in which the other side ignores what's being said and only repeats its claims in a more shrill tone. And he understands, as all Jews and Arabs who live in that amazingly small and crowded land have to eventually understand, that only if they hear each other, only if they really hear the other, and only if they hear not just the words but the unspoken cries, then maybe it will be possible for them to come to an agreement on how to live together in a land that is precious to them both. Only if they listen to each other's unspoken convictions, to each other's beliefs, will they be able to make peace and live together in a land that Ephron and Abraham were able to live together in peace. And although the divisions that we have in our country by degree are dramatically less, yet there are great divisions. And maybe those of us who either live in blue states or those of us who are blue and live in red states need to hear a little bit more as we demand that others hear a little bit more of us. Every year we read this story. Why do we read it every year? Maybe in order to strengthen our hope, a hope that has been nearly demolished by a reality of what's going on, in order to strengthen our hope in terms of the land of Israel, that Jews and Arabs may yet live together in peace if they can learn how to listen even better. The Bible records that we each heard each other once, that we were both able to cut through the rhetoric once and listen to each other's pain and needs. Could it happen again? We can hope so. We can hope so very, very, very strongly. Rachel, hope, a sense of hope, a sense of values, a sense of morality, a sense of sacred traditions. These are elements of what you have been taught. This parsha tells us how the first generation of the story of Judaism, the people who made up that generation, came to an end, and how the second generation began to take its place in the world. These values, these morals, these teachings, which motivate us in our religious tradition no less than others who look upon themselves as holding strongly held religious beliefs that lean us towards moral behavior and ethical action. Indeed, these teachings, which began with Abraham and Sarah, are ours in this generation. I want you to think of yourself as an inheritor, as an heir. You are an heir of things that have come from many generations before. Those are represented by your grandmother and your grandfather who are here today, and by the memory of your grandmother and your grandfather, whose memory is so dear to you and to your parents. Rachel, you connect with Judaism already in a deep and genuine way, and it's a joy for me to see that. It's a joy to me to see how you have already been, in so many ways, so naturally and comfortably a part of our community. This certainly comes not just from what happens at home, but from the fact that, as Susanna and as Jennifer already mentioned, the way in which your mother and your father have been so connected to this community. Your mother is a teacher of our youngest children, and now with her work in our JCC preschool. And your dad, with his appreciation of Jewish tradition that he has from childhood, and his commitment to community is expressed through his involvement in leadership in our board now. So you've seen that example, but you've not just seen it, you've been here. You hear a lot, and seeing you here a lot, whether it's working the Xerox and helping your mother with something, or whether it's studying, and whatever it might be. It is that connection to Judaism in general and to this congregation in particular that we celebrate on this day. It's not just what you did here from the pulpit, it's what you have done and will continue to do that we celebrate on this day. As I said, this week's portion brings the end of that first generation of Abraham and Sarah, their part of the journey, to an end. But then it moves on to the next generation. And we think of that journey, the journey of individual Jews, the journey of the Jewish people, as modeled by the experience of Abraham and Sarah. And to you, we offer the words and the melody of blessing, as was expressed to Abraham and Sarah. Lech lecha, go forth. Lechi lach, be a blessing. We now call on Kathy Seitzman and Sylvia Trumpeter, please. We turn our prayer books to page 804, towards the back, 804. We recall that in the temple in Jerusalem, near the close of the service, an additional offering, a musaf offering, would be made. It is our custom at Beth Elohim to offer additional words of prayer as our musaf, and as we think of the example of Abraham and Sarah, who understood that action needed to be combined with worship, we continue now responsibly.
We can not only pray to you, O God, to end war, for we know that you have made the world in such a way that we must find the path to peace within ourselves and with our neighbors.
We can not only pray to you, O God,
we cannot only pray to you, O God, to root out prejudice, for you have already given us eyes with which to see the good in all people, if we would only use them rightly.
we can not only pray to you, O God, and despair, you have already given us the power to throw away slums and to give hope, if we would only use our power justly.
We can not only pray to you, O God, to end disease, for you have already given us great minds with which to search out cures and healings, if we would only use them constructively.
Therefore, we pray to you instead, O God, for strength, determination, and willpower, to do instead of only to pray,
for your sake and for ours, speedily and soon, that our land and world may be safe, and that our lives may be blessed.
The deeds that we do, acceptably for you, O Lord, our rock. Those of you who are regulars here may have noticed that after I recited the Misha Berach blessing for Rachel, I did not recite the Birkat Kohanim as I usually do, because we have a Kohen present, a descendant of the priest, to offer those words, which, by the way, also are meant to be offered by parents. And so at this time, to share some words and blessing with us, I'd like to call Helene and Bob back to the pulpit together with Rachel. Use the microphone, both of you.
Okay. Better put these on. Rachel, I know you said I couldn't embarrass you today, but after all, that is part of my mom job description, so here it goes. Daddy and I are so proud of all you have accomplished this day, but even more, we are moved by the person you are. When we named you Rachel Leah after your great-grandmothers, and of course the matriarchs, we hope that you would be, in the Jewish tradition, be blessed with the wonderful qualities of your namesake. And you have indeed exhibited steadfast loyalty to your friends and family, always there and ready to lend a hand, a shoulder to cry on, or a smile to brighten up the day. You demonstrate compassion and caring that sometimes seems far beyond your years. I remember a second-grade teacher saying, "She's one of the only children I know who ever asked me how I'm doing." Even recently, a mother said to me, "What an incredibly thoughtful person you are." She had observed you making sure that a friend who didn't know anybody at a party was included in the group. Today, your Parsha described how Rebekah was suitable for Isaac because she showed kindness to a stranger in his camel. I know you don't have a camel, but
Not yet.
we know you love to shower gifts on family and friends, but you also are bestowing a priceless gift to someone you don't even know. I was touched when you chose as your mitzvah project to raise money for a dance scholarship for a girl who would not otherwise have had that opportunity. And finally, as your brother Michael would attest to, you are truly suited to the role as mother of the Jewish generations to come, sometimes a little too much mothering. Your capacity for love is boundless, and the commitment to carry on the traditions of your faith that you share with us today will pass on to your future generations. Okay, I promise I'm almost done. I know everybody's hungry. There are a few thank yous. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I'm positive it takes a shtetl to put on a bat mitzvah. First, I'd like to thank my mom for being willing to listen for 2 years to bat mitzvah planning, and to all our wonderful family and friends who traveled from, I think we counted 13 or some odd states, to be here with us today. And we love you and thank you for making the journey. And to Grandpa Jack for being well and being here. Thank you. And to Rabbi Mintz, who not only guided you, but Bob and I as well, to make this a meaningful day. And I wanted to thank everybody, as well as you, who participated in the service today. And I'm very confused, but my aunt, cousin Marilyn. And to all the friends who baked the goodies that you're going to have today, Ann, Andrea, Bonnie, Sue, and to Jennifer and Sue for your presentations, and to Peter and Paul and Andrew, our exemplary ushers, and also everybody who admired my outfit. Thank you to Pam. She dressed me today. I wouldn't have been here without you. And Bonnie, who thank God you went first. She has been such a rock, and so many things I've been able to do with your help, and thank you for everything. And Judy Budiansky, who not only saved the corn, she told me the crows were eating it the other day and took it in, but for keeping everything straight. And last but not least, thank you to Rachel and Bob for keeping the ground steady that we walk on.
Rachel, I just wanted to say before I begin my talk that I was both moved and inspired, but a little concerned about your talk today. When you mentioned that I pulled my hair out, and then Jennifer Friedman said there was a glow coming from our direction. I had to check under my kippah to make sure it was all there. Though your mom and I have waited 13 years for this moment to happen for you, somehow I don't have the words to describe the feelings that I have for you now. You know me as a man of few words, even fewer still the past 6 months when I've been working in Connecticut. So I've decided to say my piece by the numbers, and I'm going to make it a little test. I know what you're thinking. After all this bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah prep, I'm giving you a math test. But I believe the Jewish tradition yields the best analysts because they're constantly finding new meanings for the same material they've been reading for thousands of years. I believe your experience can be summarized in 3 numbers. The first number is 5,765. No, it's not the number of times your mom and I have asked you to clean your room, stop teasing your brother, or do your homework. That number is much greater. No, 5,765 is the number of years since Abraham accepted the covenant. As your Torah reading described today, it is the tradition that has been passed down to you from Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob, Rachel, and Leah, through your grandparents and parents. I'm sure your Grandma Rhoda and Grandpa Lenny are watching you today with pride of the accomplishments you've made today. By fulfilling the mitzvot, as you have so beautifully today, you have accepted that tradition and commit to passing that down to your children. Thus, we, your family and friends, will then have the satisfaction of knowing that the kvetching you've been giving us all these years, you will receive from your children. The second number is 15. Now, you might think that's the age you start driving. No way. Or maybe the years before we let you start dating. But in this case, see, it's all in the interpretation. It's actually the number of states representing the parts of the country that your family and friends have come here today to witness this event. It is their love and support which define the person you are. Much as was written in the Torah portion this morning, the respect that Abraham received in his negotiations was largely due to his and Sarah's relationship with their family and friends. It is these relationships that must be cultivated, nurtured, and treasured throughout your life. But are ultimately dependent on you growing as an independent, responsible, and caring adult, as you have demonstrated with us, at least from time to time, that is. Finally, the third and last number, 86. Yes, before this year was the number of years before the Red Sox, since the Red Sox won the World Series. But as their victory demonstrated, if your desire and commitment to achieve is strong enough to overcome the obstacles that life often places in your way, you will ultimately triumph, and the victory so attained is that much sweeter because you have given your best efforts toward achieving that goal. As the story goes, when a man was asked how much luck was responsible for his success, he said that the harder he worked, the luckier he got. Please don't wait 86 years to get lucky. Finally, as the daughter of a Kohen, you will get to define the traditions of what it truly means to be a Jap, a Jewish American priestess. And in the ancient tradition of the Birkat Kohanim, I would like to bless you in keeping with that tradition. Yivarechecha Adonai Yavish Merecha Yasir Adonai Panav Elecha V'chu Necha Yisa Adonai Panav Elecha Vayasim Lecha Shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. May God reach out to you in tenderness and give you peace. I love you very much.
We invite Charles and Denise Katz to please come forward to open the Ark as we approach the concluding section of our service. We rise, page 402, Aleinu L'Shabeach. Aleinu L'Shabeach Adon HaKol Please be seated. For the kingdom is yours, and to all eternity you will reign in glory, as it is written in your Torah, the Lord shall reign forever and ever. It has been foretold, the Lord shall be sovereign over all the earth. On that day the Lord shall be one, and God's name shall be one. V'nemar Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo The mourner's Kaddish may be found on page 410. May the memories which we cherish and lovingly now recall inspire us so to live, that we too may bequeath a heritage of precious memories to those whom we shall leave behind. On this Sabbath we call to memory Danny Goldman, Rudolph Jacobson, Stanley Joseph Mintz, Edward Haas, Ann Burgart, Sidney Hoffman, Louis J. Schwartz, Gene Engelman, and Irving Isaacowitz, whose yahrzeits are observed this week. In tribute to our departed, may we enrich the lives we touch, may we share and preserve the faith which our mourners now affirm as they rise, to sanctify God's name in the hallowed words of the Kaddish. Those observing yahrzeit and those in mourning, please join with me. Yit Gadal, Yit Kadash, Shmei Rabbah, Be'alma Divra Chirute, V'yamlich Malchute, B'chayechon Uvyomechon, U'b'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala U'bizman Kariv V'yamru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mavarach Le'alam Ula Almei Almaya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh, Yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei Dekudesha, Le'ela Min Kol Berchata B'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Damiran Ba'alma V'yimru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya V'chaim, Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. Oseh Shalom B'rmamav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved. Amen. At the conclusion of the service, after we join together with our choir singing Adon Olam, we ask that you give your attention to the front of the sanctuary by the menorah. There we sanctify the Sabbath with the wine of Kiddush and the blessing Hamotzi. Following the Kiddush blessing, we're all invited to flow out through, is it in the community court or in the social hall? Flow out through the community court into the social hall and immediately begin enjoying the Kiddush that awaits us all there. Our thanks to the family for hosting our Kiddush this day, as well as for the flowers that add so much beauty to the pulpit. We are very grateful to our choir, to our choir conductor Judy Kramer and accompanist Marty Siegel, and to also want to welcome today, for the first time with our choir, Lisa Jones, who is very much a part of what we do this day, and we appreciate that. Service is this Friday evening, the 12th at 8 o'clock, and next Saturday morning, the 13th at 10 o'clock. During that service, Sidney Perry will be called to the Torah as a bat mitzvah. Also next Saturday morning, junior congregation at 10 o'clock. This Monday evening at 6:30, as part of our Midrashah program, the author Rich Cohen will be speaking on his book Machers and Rockers, about the role of Jews in the early days of rock and roll. So those of you who are old rockers may want to come back on Monday evening. We indeed invite anyone from the community to join us for that evening with the guest speaker. And a very special welcome to Rob and Nora Gutcho, who are back with us on this Sabbath. Having you and your family here is really a great source of joy to us all. We'll conclude the service with the singing of Adon Olam, page 412. If you're not familiar with this melody, the refrain repeats itself, and we hope you'll join in at least in the refrain, if not in the entire Adon Olam, page 412. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa b'chefza kol azai melech shmo nikra kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya והוא יהיה בתפארה, אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואין שני להמשילו, להכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. וחי גואלי וצור חבלי ביצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנקוסי ביום אקרא, אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. Celebrate this day and its holiness. We give thanks for all of our blessings, for life and health, for work and rest, for home, love, and friendship. On Shabbat, the eternal sign of creation, we remember that we are created in the divine image. Therefore, the Lord blessed the seventh day and called it holy. Al Kain, Perach, Adonai Yom HaShabbat, Baikat Shehu, Savri, Menam Rabbatai. Before Hamotzi, two things I left out in my announcements, a special thank you to Marilyn Giller. So beautiful, so wonderful. Thank you so very much. And a thanks to our ushers, and you can assist our ushers as you leave. Please take your prayer books and commission with you. That would be very helpful. We praise you, Lord our God, sovereign in the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. We praise you, Lord our God, sovereign in the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Shabbat shalom. Let's make sure this doesn't get misplaced. Your those are her papers over there.
I'm the tallest. Take it all.
I don't know how to chain the car.
Just hang it. Just open it all the way up and take it.